Hi, Diane Davidson here from the Fine Homes Group at Keller Williams. On our podcast, Good Deeds Real Estate with a Mission, I'm here with Bill Weidecker, my partner in life and work,
Hello and hello.
and with his own ice cream truck.
Yeah,
Good
well, it's
humor.
the hottest day of the year, and I'm wearing seersucker.
And a long sleeve shirt.
This
and
is
a
I'm
tie.
fashioning a Brooks Brothers suit. Yes,
And if they could see the shoes, Pat Boone incarnate.
they are.
Okay, there they are.
Enough of that.
Bucks, white bucks, right?
That's correct.
Mhm.
Also Brooks Brothers.
I see. So this is about Brooks Brothers.
I'm an
today.
influencer.
Okay. So we're calling this episode, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I'll tell you what I want to talk about.
Okay, besides shoes and suit.
The real estate market in general, but we're always being asked this sort of question: what's going on out there? We had dinner with some friends of ours who said, "Are people even looking at houses right now? Are all the buyers gone?" So it's interesting because buyers think one thing, as you were saying, sellers think another. Let's talk in general about that
Okay.
and marketing and whether or not it really even matters anymore. All those things.
Okay.
Well, who'd like to start?
You would. You'd like to
Okay.
continue. You already started.
All right, I'll start.
Okay.
The buyers think it's a buyer's market. The sellers think it's a seller's market, and both are kind of right.
It's the market.
Yeah, they're both right to this point. Is that there seems to be a little bit more leeway in the marketplace right now for buyers to buy something. You're hearing more and more that, a buyer was able to buy and it was their first offer on their first property that they looked at and they got it. As opposed to, they've looked at 50 properties, they put in 10 offers, they haven't gotten any of them. There's a little bit less of that. Still, with the right priced properties, multiple offers are the coin of the realm. Still going on.
So it's maybe a gentler market a little bit.
Just a skosh.
Yep.
Just a skosh, because we are still hearing, something. People are paying attention to brand new listings.
Yep.
And if they're not coming onto the market right out of the chute, properly priced, properly presented, there will be some pushback.
So you say properly presented. That leads me to believe that you don't think that properties should be prepared and marketed. That the properties shouldn't be prepared and marketed the way we've always believed that they should be. Right?
Yeah, I have always believed that you put your best foot forward in every market.
Correct.
In a seller's market, in an extreme seller's market, there have been agents out there that say you don't need to stage the property, you don't need to worry about professional photographs, you don't need additional documentation, you don't need anything. And maybe you don't, but as long as you don't need the highest price possible,
The best
if
terms.
you're the seller,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yep.
So I happen to feel like you put the property out there so that you get as many competitive bids as possible. And that means making sure that the buyers that look at it don't start discounting right from the beginning.
Mhm.
Well, how do you do that? You make sure that you take all potential objections off the table. That's it.
And then exposure and the way it's presented, right? We want to engage a buyer. Buyers like to, the statistic is 95% of the properties that are sold are seen first on the internet, right? And so we call that the first showing, and I know we've talked about that before in these sessions, but it really, really is true. I mean, we found, we sold one recently in Bedford where the people came from out of state and they took the Matterport tour and came to see the property because of the tour and went, the large property, went through it kind of quickly, and the listing agent on our team said, would you like to go through again? They said, no, we really already toured it online. And so all of those things matter, and we never know which tool is going to be the effective tool, right?
Well, true, and there are going to be people out there that say, well, I take my own photographs. You don't need to wait an extra 4 or 5 days. We can have this listing up in 24 hours. I'll take the photographs myself. And it shows.
Mm-hmm.
It really should. Buyers make a decision when they buy a house. It is backed up logically, but made emotionally. When people walk into a property or when they start to look at the photographs, and they start to look at all the supporting documentation, it evokes a feeling in them. And it is emotional. And if people start seeing really poor quality photographic representation of the house, they may never see it other than virtually.
Right.
It doesn't appeal to them. It doesn't evoke any emotion. I don't know if I need to see that.
So we call that the first showing. On our team, we call it the first showing, right? And our goal is to, well, sometimes people buy based just virtually, not just during COVID, but even subsequent to COVID, or to the shutdown. But they're emotionally involved and already proud of the property and already engaged with the property if it's presented properly.
Yeah, and I in fairness, there are agents that will say you don't need all of that. Okay, now the majority of marketing material is paid for by whom?
The agent.
The agent. So when the agent says you don't need all of that, what they're really saying is I'm not going to pay for all of that.
Right.
And if it really comes down to this, it might not make a difference, but it might. And in most cases, our experience tells us it definitely does.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. There's no question. For everything we've done, Bill, and we've done it over and over, things that we've added to our repertoire. But for everything we've done to market a property, we have at least one instance, and sometimes many, where we know that there was one particular thing that engaged the buyer and caused them to come and see the property in person and buy the property.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important not to miss any of them, because you never know which one or ones is going to elicit that kind of emotion in the buyer.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the message here? Are we talking about the market still?
Well, the market, I think the market's still very vibrant. Now, here's what we look at. I track the numbers every single day, and I do a 1 week look back every day. So I'm just taking the bumps out of the market for that week, and I look in Hillsborough, Rockingham, and Merrimack County. It's the populated counties of the state. It's just, for me, it's where I'm most interested. It's where the majority of the people live. Here's what I know. In the entire state, there's just around 2,000 single-family homes on the market. So there's more than there was about 6 months ago, because we were looking at around 900 single-family homes. So we're at about 2,000. That's still not a lot. 10 years ago, we were at about 10,000 houses on the market. 1/5 today versus then. So there's not a lot of single-family homes on the market. Condominiums, 430, 450, depending on the day, in the entire state. Buyers are still outstripping sellers. This morning, 1.4 to 1. So for every listing that comes on the market, there's 1.5 buyers out there looking to buy. That's still a pretty strong seller's market, but we were looking at, in some cases, 3 to 1.
And consistently 2 point something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do believe the market's still really, really good. And now, here's what else I know is that the buyers that had been on the sidelines are now starting to come back into the market and experiencing success.
Mm-hmm.
So those that had waited and said, I don't know if I'll ever get a house, are now getting those houses.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing a kind of a late, a late second quarter, now into the third quarter surge of buyer traffic. I think that's good. Hard to know where the fourth quarter is going to look like. Really hard to know. The Fed's looking at raising rates yet again in September, and then again in November. We'll wait to see. We have no control over where that market is. All I do know is the market's really good right now.
Right, and it's given opportunities to VA buyers, FHA buyers who are being shut out for many months. And I think, too, that people start hearing those stories and there's hope. And I think that's a big part of sort of the buying population, too, are people who thought that their terms weren't going to be attractive enough to sellers, so they're hanging back a little bit. But lately, that's not been the case, and it's nice. It's heartwarming to know that people have a chance.
Yeah,
A better chance.
And if you're going to buy, if you're thinking of buying or renting, you should be buying. And that sounds a little self-serving, but there's a great website put out by the government. It's the census site, uscensus.gov, and they just released rental numbers for the entire country and vacancy rates. And the vacancy rates in the Northeast are the lowest in the country. They're around 3%.
Wow.
To give you an idea, the national vacancy rate's around 6, so we're about half of that. And so when they're that low, Diane, here's what happens. Rental increases are across the board. In June in Manchester, they were 1.9%. So that's a 22%, annualized, that's a 22% increase. So there's no relief on the rental side. And for our clients that bought houses 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 2 years ago, their payments have stayed fixed because the majority of them have had fixed rate mortgages. So at least their principal and interest payment has been the same and likely to stay the same for the next 30 years if they stay that long.
Hope not.
God, that's a
Not
long
the
time.
fixed
They
part,
need
the-
to vote.
The staying that long
Yeah,
part,
no.
skew the averages.
Right.
Well, and also there are areas of the country where where Wall Street's buying up property, single family homes,
Mhm.
right? So it's obviously it's a good investment for them, and that will only cause to drive rental prices up more.
Yeah.
Right, and create scarcity for the buyers.
Yeah.
So before it comes here, because it's already in other areas of the country, big time. Before it comes here in a big way, I think it's still a great time to buy.
And there's a fair amount of people that are renting because they don't think they can buy. And
Who should they call?
Who are you going to call?
The good humor man.
Yeah, well, you can call me. Yeah. So, don't get me started. No, but the market's good. The market's really good for both buyers and sellers. And you think, how can it be both? It just can be.
Mm-hmm.
And it has for a long time. So.
Well, the other thing is many buyers are also sellers, right?
Yeah.
And so there's good to be found in both.
Yep.
For both. Okay, well that wraps it up for today. I'll let you get back to the ice cream truck.
You want Jimmy's with that?
Sprinkle or
Sprinkles?
Jimmy. No, I grew up on Jimmy. Sprinkles is somewhere else in the country.
Sure.
Right? No, it's regional. I'll take a frap. So thanks for tuning in today. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast platform or subscribe to our YouTube channel.